My name is Jason, and this is Just Watches. Okay, today we have a super cool watch. This is the updated Arnie, the SNJ029, which is also known as the Safarnie. This watch was generously lent into the channel by a pinniped. However, before we get to the review, if you're enjoying the content of this channel, I invite you to subscribe, and if you're enjoying the contents of this individual video, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much. So for price and availability, this watch is available on the Seiko website and has an MSRP of $550. However, the street price is much closer to around $350. So this case is 47.5 millimeters in diameter. It's 50 millimeters lug to lug. It's 14 millimeters thick, and then it has a 22 millimeter lug width opening. Now on the stock strap, it weighs in at 116 grams. Now this case is almost entirely shrouded by black plastic. However, it feels very robust. The plastic doesn't really feel cheap at all. The kind of gunmetal gray finish of the case proper does peek out a bit at the lugs, crowns, and bezel, and provides a cool contrasting color for the case of the watch. There are two screw down crowns on the left side that you actually screw into the case to expose the pushers. You know you can activate the pushers when you screw in the crown and reveal an orange ring. Now this ring is also warning you that the watch is not water resistant, so if you want to take advantage of the 200 meters of water resistance, you want to make sure you screw those crowns back out of the case. Now the main crown is at 3 o'clock and is also screwed down, and then you actually have these kind of studs in the mirrored positions on both sides of the case where the crowns are not, which provides a touch of visual symmetry overall. The stock strap is this beautiful tan color, and it starts at 22 millimeters and then tapers down to 20 millimeters, and then you have the Seiko wave at the tail here. The pin and buckle are the same dark gray finish as the case, and then there's this really robust floating keeper that looks awesome, has all these holes punched in it. Now the strap is comfortable and durable, but it is also very long. I think if your wrist is any smaller than mine, then you might have a problem with the tail of the strap sticking out over the face of the watch. You'll see just how far it sticks out on my 6 3/4 inch wrist in the Wristshot. The screw-in caseback is all high polish, save for a satin relief for the high polish Seiko wave to reside on top of. Now this watch has an impressive 200 meters of water resistance. This watch is powered by the Seiko H851 solar quartz movement. Now this is a hacking movement. It has a 6-month power reserve and then an accuracy of plus or minus 15 seconds a month. Now it will actually power save if it's not getting enough light, and the hands will stop moving, but it continues to keep track of the time. And then once the watch comes back into contact with light, the watch will return the hands to the correct time. Now the way you set the watch is also pretty cool. You actually set time on the digital display, and then the hands set themselves to that time. Also, this calendar is perpetual until 2100, and then the watch can track a second time zone and additionally can display that second time zone in the digital area so you can see both time zones simultaneously. There's also a stopwatch and an alarm, and then finally the top digital display has a backlight that can be activated with one of the pushers. Now this watch has 3 crowns. They're all 7 millimeters, they're all screw down, and they're all unsigned. The threading and unthreading action on all 3 is very smooth, and operating the watch from the main crown is very easy. Now, Seiko used Hardlex here, and I actually think that might be the right choice. From what I understand, Hardlex is more shatter resistant than Sapphire, and I think it is much more preferable to be shatter resistant rather than scratch resistant on an adventure style watch. Also, the crystal sits far below the bezel, and that should protect it from some scratches and dings. The 120 click unidirectional bezel is brushed stainless steel with very chunky knurling. The action is similar to other Seiko bezels, but I find it is a bit tricky to turn because of how much of the bezel is obscured by the shroud. The alignment is close to, but not quite perfect, but this is a Seiko, so you already knew that. And then the markings are tan, and then they match the color scheme really well overall. This watch has a double chapter ring. The outermost part is tan and then has markings for the minutes and hours. And then the inner chapter ring is black and has the military hour designations. The dial is a matte black with painted and lumed indices for the hours. A triangle designates 12 with larger rectangles for 3, 6, and 9. And then of course the whole thing is slightly squished down to accommodate the digital display at 12. Finally, we have a Seiko at the 12 o'clock, and then the Prospex X Solar and Divers 200 meters at 6. The hour and minute hands are baton style, completely flat, have a brushed finish, and then are filled with lume. They're a touch short since the actual analog section of the dial is relegated to the bottom about 80% of the dial to make way for that digital display at the top. The second hand is a bright orange that matches and complements the orange ring on the pushers. It also has the classic lollipop counterbalance. Overall, the dial is super legible, and I love the added functionality of the digital display. I feel like they were able to sneak it in a way that feels cohesive with the rest of the design of the watch. And then this being a Seiko, you know the lume is going to be responsive, bright, and long-lasting. They used a really cool blue here, and then you can always cheat and use the backlight if for whatever reason you couldn't make out the time with the hands. And then on my 6 3/4 inch wrist, you can see this is not a small watch, and then the strap problem, I have so much extra, it just kind of comes over the top of the watch. So for pros and cons, starting with the pros, well, first, this watch is so practical and tactical at the same time. It has so many incredible features like the second time zone you can display on the dial, the stopwatch, alarm, a full 200 meters of water resistance, the perpetual calendar, etc., etc. This is the kind of watch that you feel inclined to take on an adventure, and I totally see myself choosing this watch to go hiking or backpacking. Second, the dial is super legible, and I love how they kind of just pulled off that digital display. They really squished the analog section a little bit at the top there, but it doesn't really bother me, and I'm kind of surprised by that, so it's well executed. As for cons, the watch is really big and feels large because of these crowns on the left side. I think this is just part of the design of the watch, but this watch has massive wrist presence. Second, the strap is quite long. If you have a smaller wrist, you might have an issue with the tail coming all the way around, kind of blocking the face of the watch. And then third, I wish the bezel was just a touch easier to turn underneath the shroud. As for comparables, you could always pick up a Casio GA2100 for around $100. That's a very popular Ani-Digi watch, and they are more readily available now and come in just a ton of really cool colorways. You can also check out my review of one of those in the upper right hand corner now. And then you might also consider a Seiko Digituna for about the same price as the Arnie. And then finally, while they tend to run a lot bigger, the Casio Edifice line actually has quite a variety of Ani-Digi watches as well. So there you have it, the Seiko SNJ029, aka the Safarnie. What do you think about this watch? Let me know in the comment section below. As always, if you're enjoying the contents of this channel, I invite you to subscribe, and if you're enjoying the contents of this individual video, please give it a thumbs up. That's all for this time. My name is Jason, and you have been watching Just Watches.